preparing to broadcast. And we're live. All right, welcome everyone. Jason, take it away.
All right. Thanks for being here, everyone. We're here with the fabulous Lauren Gunderson, the author of the Book of Will, our first show in the season. Lauren, how can we address you? What would you prefer?
It is just, first name. Lauren is great. Hi, everybody. I'm so happy to be here and talk about the play and talk about your work and everything.
So, as you can see behind me, this is the set for a Book of Will. It's a work in progress, but we're working on it. Our theater is outdoors, as you can see, in a lovely amphitheater here in Asheville. And I would like to start off. I know that you're a big Shakespeare nerds, a nerd like we all are. What got you into Shakespeare? What was your first experience that said, "Wow, I really love this person's work"?
Yeah. I as I knew I wanted to be an actor at first and then found writing, to be great in the theater, you need to know one of the greatest writers, and that is usually considered to be our dear Will. So I came to it sort of expecting greatness, but expecting sort of distance or coldness or something that felt 400 years ago. And instead found so many instances of warmth and humor and surprise and profundity and things that felt like I needed to hear them at that exact moment when I was 10 or 15 or 25 or today. So it was sort of it was definitely foisted upon me and then became something that I kind of continue to investigate to this day. So I love the work. I would read Caesar and R&J in my bedroom as a middle school, and just got used to saying the language at first because I thought I wanted to be primarily an actor, which I think helps as a writer, definitely, to understand the sort of alchemy between the written word and the spoken word. And Shakespeare certainly did, with all of the way his language is so fluid, percussive when it needs to be, and sharp and melodic. So yes, I come to it again and again. And, sometimes I'm all about the sonnets and sometimes I'm all about the history. Sometimes I'm all about the comedies. But there's so much there. So I love it.
And you've written many plays based on Shakespeare or his work. Do you know off the top of your head how many?
Ooh, probably 10-ish. I don't know. I always get asked about the numbers of plays, and I should have a little list by my desk so I sound like I know my own career. But yes, I did one based on Taming of the Shrew that's called The Taming, but instead of Battle of the Sexes, it's a battle of partisan politics in America, in contemporary America. I did one called Toil and Trouble, unsurprisingly based on Macbeth, but also contemporary American farce about sort of tech bro startup culture in San Francisco. Exit Pursued by a Bear has a Winter's Tale thread that is about domestic abuse and resilience through friendship, as that play is also about those things. Yeah, what else? Book of Will, this new and Muse of Fire is about Will and Shakespeare. Natural Shocks is based on Hamlet. A Room in the Castle is also based on Hamlet. So just can't stop, won't stop.
What's the cat's name?
This is Mitten. She loves a Zoom meeting so much. She always knows when she is being fawned over virtually.
Hi, Lauren. My name is Adam Camporis. I'm the director of this production of Book of Will. And
Awesome.
I just want to say personally, thank you so much for joining us today. It was really exciting to hear that this was a possibility, and to actually see your face and hear your voice outside of a podcast is pretty great.
Yeah, let's do it.
Thanks
So
for that.
excited.
We've collected some questions from the cast, and I thought we'd just get right into those, if that's cool with you.
Let's do it.
If you have any questions for us and what we're doing with your play, we'll give you a chance to ask those.
Great.
I promise all of our decisions are made with the utmost respect to the player.
In
Fantastic.
fact, Lauren, just know that the other night we got your full, like, what I tell every cast speech
Ooh,
directly
nice.
from Adam. He gave us the
Pace,
speed,
speech.
pace. Don't be a
Woohoo!
Now, if only I can get that alacrity into my transitions, we would be golden at this point.
Transitions are always the bugaboo, aren't they? But I believe in you.
Yeah.
We're taking some creative license with that to try to make it less
Yes.
lights down, you know what I mean? Waiting
Perfect.
with music in between. So we'll see how it goes. So far it's looking beautiful, but
Awesome.
yeah. Anyway,
Fantastic.
so a good segue, I think, is this is from our oh, hey, if I introduce you to ask a question, will you also let Lauren know what you're playing? So Dakota, why don't you come over here and ask that good segue question from what we just discussed?
Hi there. My name's Dakota. Big time.
See you, Dakota.
There we go. Hi, Dakota. Big time fan, first time caller. I'm playing Marcus and a few other ensemble parts in this production. I just had a simple starter, which is currently your favorite Shakespeare play. The first thing that comes to your head. Just an easy
Love
little-
it. Totally. I'm a Much Ado girl these days. It's just the funniest one. Like, it's just actually funny. And I love the sort of OG enemies to lovers arc. It's very like contemporary romance novel. It's very rom-com. It's so funny and fierce, and the women are pretty killer. And I have a new one that's called Lady Disdain, that is my Much Ado riff. That's about it's about all the things that Much Ado is about, but it's the most fun. Hello, my dear. She really likes that one too. But I actually just saw it. I got to London. I got to see the Tom Hiddleston, Haley Atwell one in London, and it was freaking great. It was so good and so smart. And you know what they did? It was brazen, but it really worked. To keep that play really tight and efficient was they cut Dogberry. I know. Very funny, but like sort of dumb. And like we don't need it. We don't need it. So I was like, I was stunned. I was impressed. It was so funny. So I'm always here for a Much Ado.
That's a coffee.
All right. No, Kathleen. I am gonna ask a question from a cast member who's not yet here. Do you agree with Alice about Shakespeare's women, how they get to speak, love, and be evil? That is from Kathleen, who's playing Alice.
Hell yeah. Yeah, I mean they do.
And so
great.
of those three things, what do you find most exciting?
I mean, the love is great. And part of why I like Much Ado is because of the love story earned between Beatrice and Benedict, that they don't actually change for each other. They just sort of realize and accept who each other are and see, because they've loved each other all along anyway. They're fooling no one. But so I really love that. I mean, I love Lady M and McBee, and that, before the old regicide stuff, their relationship is pretty rad. Like, they really work well together and they respect each other. And, he needs her, and she's like, she wears the pants some of the time. And so I sort of love that. As You Like It is so full of like wonderful, strange love stories, like the bitchy kind and the bravado kind. And it's such a fruitful and diverse place for women. And there's disappointments too. Like, no one actually wants to be Ophelia or Hero. Like, oh, you're kind of an interesting part, and then it sort of goes away. But there's ways to fix that and adjust and interrogate those, this sort of absence of arc. and I also feel like the way that we meet Shakespeare now, there's a lot of feminism and a lot of strength in those roles as we find them. But also, Shakespeare would want us to continue to bring what is obviously already there in the spirit of those things into a contemporary space where we can understand, like, yeah, maybe hero should like say something and like maybe not take the guy back that was such an asshole to her. Like maybe, I don't know. So there's ways that I think we can honor what is still so vivacious about those, especially the women characters, by continuing to sort of, nudge them this way and that, and maybe change an ending here and there, or add a speech here and there. So I love that is an ongoing conversation with writing really cool, diverse women.
And what I want to say and comment to that about love being like, the most exciting of those three things is what a theme of the play that a Book of Will is, what a theme it is in the play Book of Will. I multiple times I've listened into your interview with in the Shakespeare Unlimited podcast about Book of Will, and you talk about really about the relationships, not just about this legendary character, but the humanity behind that character and the people that made not only his work, who made his work possible. And so we've kind of taken that and very literally, and that becomes like the ink stains, the imprints, not just on the page, but it's the imprints that we make on each other's hearts.
Oh, it's beautiful.
I want to say thank you for that, for giving, because when I started this is my first time directing, and when they went into the interview, I was like, "What's your concept?" And I was like, "Well, I just listened to that podcast, and it was that really anchored me to whatever it is we're building now, which is a lot of fun." So
great.
yeah, just thank you for all the love in the play and keeping that at the forefront.
That's
Jason.
awesome.
Hi, I had a question about how much you researched this play. What research went into it?
I mean, just so much. I mean, the way I tend to do it is I absorb as much of everything that I can, and it's books and reaching out to academics and any of the bajillion ways that we absorb information these days. And then I sort of forget it, and I just write, and it always sort of sticks, and I sort of don't know why I know a thing for sure, but there'll be a reference, and a dramaturg, very well-meaning and eager, will kind of say like, "Did we know that this happened?" And I'll be like, "I bet it happened. I don't know where I read it. I cannot point to the piece of, have no source, but I'm pretty sure that I would not have put it in there if it didn't." And I'm always right. So there's all those like
the musifier, right?
Yes, well, exactly. It's it happens that in those ones too. So yeah, I just absorb a ton, but it comes down to I remember Davis McCullum, who directed the premiere at the Denver Center. It always comes back to relationships. So like the research can be great and it's very cool, and I think audiences really appreciate when they can walk away and go like, I can't believe that was real or is based on reality. That's so neat. But we're not there for a history lesson. We're there to feel, and we're there to connect and to sort of remind ourselves that humanity is humanity across time. And 450 years ago, a loss was a loss, and love is love. And those things don't actually change. The circumstances do, of course. But so we kind of kept reminding ourselves that, and the language wants to feel contemporary, like a little elevated, to give a nod to that era, but not live in that era and not be so chained to details and protocol of that time that it stops us from realizing like these are people, and they lost their friend, and they love their friend, and they want to make something cool together, and they want to be understood and to understand. And that's the thing that kind of keeps it grounded in humans. And that's what we're here to do, is to be like, oh, look, humans. I like humans. I am one. This is great.
It's yeah, I think it's especially important to remember that when we find ourselves repeating, "Oh, I don't like humans. Oh, I don't like humans."
Yes.
Again, thank you for the reminder to keep love forward. Tracy.
Spinning. Hi, Lauren. How are you? Thank you so much for doing this for us. My name is Tracy Johnston Crum, and I'm playing Rebecca in this production.
Awesome.
The humanity of John and Henry are so beautifully illustrated through their relationship, but also the relationship with their wives. And it was curious, shall we say, are there things that the women in these characters that have been overlooked in previous productions that you would like to see brought forward in this production?
Yeah. I don't know about overlooked as much as just the stuff that I really responded to, but yes, I think so much of it is making sure that the women have relationships with each other, and it's not just they aren't always on the arm of the man. They are chatting and connecting with each other and really finding the kind of sisterhood between them. Also, they're as funny as the guys are and powerful as the guys are. And yeah, especially your role because it's so heartful, having that backbone and having that, quick humor and tough love that she gives to John is really important. I also think like how they enjoy the titles of the plays, like imbuing everyone with what you actually thought about it, and whoever gets Taming of the Shrew, you toss that baby away, but you can have like maybe surprise us like, wow, she really likes Midsummer. Okay. You know what I mean? Who knows? Like you can having like vivacious opinions and I think that keeps it really, really fun. And they love theater and it is a play about people who love what we do. So I sort of always want to let that love actually happen. I mean, I think I will say one of the things that is most important, especially at the top of the show, is because it's Shakespeare and because there's the word book in the title. People will kind of maybe assume that it's not as funny and warm. It's like, oh, this is a play about books and about Shakespeare. Okay, get your serious pants on. But what we want to establish right away is how loud and cacophonous and funny, and it's your friends at a birthday party after too many beers sort of vibes. It is talking over each other and no air and just yeah, and everyone's agreeing and not agreeing and just that feeling of especially theater people, especially after a bad play, like man, we can't shut up about it. It's the best thing. Like the bad plays are great for that. So I will say the beginning of the show, again at that opening, there's the Denver Center for the Arts is wonderful, and there's this great sort of restaurant pub that's right outside the theater and has these big glass walls. And during the previews for the opening, we were stayed late, ton of notes, doing a bunch of tech things. And the director and I were walking out way after the actors had gone. And we were like talking about the show. And then we walked past that restaurant with the glass walls and they're all in there having, their nightcap and talking about it and laughing and rolling. And I was like, that's our play. That's it right there. That's what we do. So feeling that sense of just, it's friends. They just freaking love each other and they just, they tease and it's all this like wonderful spirit. And I think welcoming an audience into that space is how we keep them for the whole show. So as much fun as you can possibly have in that first scene is critical to like how far and how deep we can take the audience later to play.
Thank you very much. That was lovely.
Oh man.
Why don't we take a question from online if there's one?
Sure.
Anybody have and that's watching on Zoom have a question?
What if there is one?
Can we see them?
I'll wait till everybody else is gone.
Okay. It sounds like the online is silent, so
no, I've got a question.
Welcome, Jenny, our props master.
Hello. Hi, Lauren, and hello from another Atlantan.
Hey.
I was lucky enough to go up to Washington a few weeks ago to see A Room in the Castle.
Oh, cool.
God, what a powerful, amazing play that should make all women want to wear a dagger.
Yes. Awesome.
I was sitting in the theater in my head picking a director and picking actors. When do you think that we might be able to get production rights here at Montford?
Anytime you want. I know a lady. Thank you
such-
so much for seeing the show. It was a beautiful production, and it's what I'm really proud of.
Well, the women in the who were cast in those roles were so amazingly powerful in three different ways, and to have women who are marginalized, but have marginalized women play those roles, or traditionally marginalized women, was absolutely astounding, and I was taking on every bit of it.
Awesome.
I hate to even tell anybody, I want everybody to read it and discover it for themselves, or see it and discover it. But thank you for writing that.
That means so much. Thank you. That just means the world.
As an older woman who sees women your age and younger women, and all my friends at Montfort becoming who they need to be, I thank you very much for that. And
That's
I'm sorry
awesome.
that's such a throwaway. I'm loving doing props for Book of Will. It's fun. I'm not an actor. I'm scared to get up on stage. So my way of giving is, printing folio pages or whatever.
Love it. Love it. Well, that's
Thank you.
awesome. Thank you so much.
Hi, Lauren. My name's Alan Steele, and I am playing Master John Hemmings.
Woohoo!
And thank you for just a powerhouse of a role. It's amazing and exhausting. And my first question is, John is a stutterer, and there are only 3 instances where he stutters. And so one of the first nights I sat with Adam and went, why are there only 3? And so what I started to do was look for what I called stutter points, places where he would struggle and then be victorious over his exceptionality. So I'm just curious if, well, one, why just the 3 and their placement? And then also in the first draft, were there more?
Yeah, thank you for the question. It was mostly because there was one instance of some historical record of him having a stutter, and so I thought, what an interesting thing for an actor to have that, when that wasn't a career that many people they invented the career, so it's not like, yeah, there's so many actors and whatever. So it was very interesting. So he was obviously successful enough at containing it and controlling it when he needed to. But I think you're right to find places where he can break a little bit, just as long as it doesn't affect that sort of crackle and the handoff of line to line and the pickups for the rest of the people. But yeah, I think play with it.
Adam won't let us slow down.
That's
So
excellent.
I promise that won't be a problem at all.
Yes, that's
Once
great.
again,
But yeah,
thank
play
you.
with it.
Thank you
Whatever
so much.
feels right. And he's around friends too. So there's the sort of performative quality when he's in a more public space versus those private conversations. So yeah, I'd say play with it.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Lauren.
Yeah, thanks for doing that research too.
Another one from Alan that I'm gonna ask for him while I cue somebody else up is, did any of Shakespeare's women inspire the women in Book of Will? And if so, which ones?
Yeah. I mean, there's just a lot of Beatrice. There's just Beatrice for days, Yeah, I mean, all of them in some way. There's so many good ones. But Alice definitely has some of that Rosalind to her, and I mean a little Juliet too, the sort of moony-eyed, but she's ferocious. So she's got her. She would definitely run off to the Forest of Arden without a thought. Yeah, and I also just sort of look around at some of the other women in history at that time too, and obviously the Amelia Bassano linear character sort of jumping into the play. But the doubling isn't necessary, but the doubling does reflect sort of the kind of core personalities of those characters when you do double Anne and Becky and everybody. But yeah, so yeah, they're everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah, as you can see, we have more than 10 people in this particular cast. it's community theater. You know, we want to get as many
Yay.
people involved, and as someone who is particularly interested in experimenting with ensemble based
Cool.
transitions and movement and things of that nature, and trying to find a heightened sense of theatricality outside of the tech world, but with the people.
Yeah,
We
that's great.
expanded it as much as possible. So anyway, I'd like to call up John Stockdale
Right.
for something that made me chuckle.
Hey, Lauren. John Stockdale playing Henry, which has been not confusing at all.
John Allen and John Henry.
John Henry, Alan John, somebody. Exactly. I was wondering what your actual opinion of the play Pericles is.
I mean, I actually saw a great production at Chicago Shakes this year. Was it this year? It might be. Yeah, I can't remember when it was. And that was the first time that I was like, oh yeah, it's a super fun play. But like, it's a little long and it's episodic and sort of like, all right, what's like doesn't like totally build. So like not his best. But it was mainly just the word. The word Pericles is funny, and I sort of just had to pick one of the smaller ones for him to be obsessed with, and besides that, there's no real meaning behind it.
Thanks so much.
I am curious though, what is the how did you discover that joke and that being the one that was going to be recurring? Was it something you just knew you wanted from the beginning of some play, like, and you just said, okay, that one sounds fun?
Yeah, it was sort of like, it could have been Titus. It could have been like one of the ones where you're like, it's a interesting one to like really, really like. So I don't know. And I think at that time, like Pericles is one that he's sort of probably co-wrote, or they sort of think it, I can't remember. But again, if I thought that I read that somewhere, but it's stuck in there, I can't point to it.
I thought Wilkins wrote that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Wilkins, exactly. But yeah, no, it just mainly I wanted a funny one. It, you know, some of the serious ones, I mean, like I don't know, like Two Gents didn't feel right, and there's so many jokes for all of the titles of all the plays that was sort of the one left, honestly.
Great. Well, it's one of my favorite things. I love her making jokes. Okay, I have another one that I want to ask from Dakota. Just do you mind if I just dive right in? So your love and passion for Shakespeare's work shines through this play. The dialogue is full of historical context and each little facts about performances throughout history, i.e. the disastrous Henry VIII fire and the happy Lear ending, which makes the piece such a dramaturg's dream. With that in mind, how did the process of writing the Book of Will begin, and what are some of your favorite discoveries as you wrote the script?
Yeah, I mean, so it started with this book that I read called The Book of William. And it's a great book. The first chapter is about the publishing of the folio, and mentions all of our characters and our wonderful Jaggard and everything. And yes, but then the rest of it is about sort of, you know, stealing of the folios, the destruction of them, the saving of them, the sort of life much past everyone else in the play. But that first chapter, I just highlighted like every paragraph. And then that sort of turned into just figuring out the structure of the story and sort of getting over the fact that like, yeah, we know the folio is going to be published. So that's not the question of the play. The question of the play is the heart questions of how to, what it costs a person to do this enormous thing and to believe in something that they have no context for. Like, what do you mean the plays last? That's not what plays do. And so figuring that out. But then, yeah, so much of the story of, I love learning about Henry's wife and that he gave her, she was the kind of executor of his will, which was a very rare thing for a husband to do to a wife. He obviously respected her savvy. And so that's part of filtered into that. Learning, so much about their families and the losses of kids, which were, although quite common, that that sort of allowed us to understand that we can't just go like, yeah, people lost kids all the time, just kind of happens. Like, no. You lose a child, you lose a child. It's not like, yeah, another Tuesday. Like, no, that's a big deal. Everyone. So just kind of reminding ourselves of those things. What else? Oh God, the Jaggard stuff I just love that. It's so beautifully, I mean, I didn't write it, it's history, but like you couldn't write it better than it is. Like the one person that we have record of Shakespeare saying is an asshole is the one person that they needed to do. It's so good. And I was like, thank you, history. I don't think I could have come up with anything better than that. Yeah, and I just love learning the plays, just reminding yourself of the order of the plays and how he wrote them, as much as we can tell, and sort of what that, to see his growth as a writer, and then imagining all these people in them. And so I think the real discovery was realizing that the end of the first scene, between the first and the second scene, we're going to lose the most famous actor of them all. We're going to lose Burbage, and it's going to be this sort of like, what? Wait, sorry, no. We can't start this play with that guy and then lose him and see what is this play doing? So kind of letting that be the astounding thing that it is. And then of course, when we have Johnson come in later, oh my God, I love that character. Johnson is just the best. Because he's the worst. And realize, I, again, as a fan of Shakespeare, I didn't really read the front piece material. I never read Johnson's ode to Shakespeare. I sort of heard it, I think, in passing. I didn't read hello, my dear. I didn't. She just knows I keep the treats over there, so she's just trying to get me. But like really trying to understanding how much work went into this, how impossible it was, the cost of paper and ink, the all of the rights and the thing, like all of the ways that this could have failed and should have failed, and how many of the plays we would have lost. And it just sort of becomes this just amazing feat. And it makes me impressed that it was just people who had no experience in this that managed to pull it off. And it's just kind of a wonder of the world,
And that brings me to another question that I don't know who, no one claimed this one for me, so I'll just read it. Our director asked us for their bios to include their personal folio, items or ideologies or something that we hope will stand the test of time. So like these characters, they put so much effort and take such pains into doing something that is not impossible, just improbable.
Yes.
That's what I've been asking them to think about and to include in their bios. And we are wondering what your personal folio might be.
I mean, probably my plays. Is that the most obvious one ever?
Good answer.
Probably pretty obvious. Yes. Those plays, yes, for sure. I think my folio would be my folio, I guess.
The Book of Lauren. That just made a little
favorite people
pop up over here that says, "Are you playing music? Do you need to mute this?" No.
Just get that stuff off.
We're doing some digital cleanup. Great. I have another question from Alan.
Great.
If you could interview one of the characters in the Book of Will over a pint of sack, I suspect you might have done that during the writing process. But if that was to be a in life situation, who would it be, and who would your first most pressing? What would be your first most pressing question?
Who I would interview?
Yes, one of the characters in the play, whether or not that's an actual person or one of them.
I mean, probably Amelia, just to be like, what happened, girl? Tell me the details. Well, actually, different now because again, this play Muse of Fire is about Will and Anne. So yeah, I would probably sidle up to Anne and be like, let's talk. I love her now. She's awesome. And I want to make it so that Muse of Fire and Book of Will can you can do one before the other. So we will sort of recognize Anne because they'll set up. Yeah, the stuff they talk about in Muse of Fire is there's some like Easter eggs for Book of Will that you can like connect. So that's kind of fun.
Congrats on the reading in San Francisco, by the way. I'm
Thanks.
curious, when was the last time before that you had been on stage yourself?
I'd done a play of mine called The Heath, which was a reading, but it was at Berkeley Rep a couple, probably like 7 or so years ago, maybe more than that. And then another play of mine, Natural Shocks, the one woman play. I did a bunch of readings of that, mostly as fundraisers for organizations. And I have a recording, an audio drama version of that one. So I don't do it very often, but it has become more through Muse of Fire, but through those other plays too, like really interesting to do the kinds of rewrites and the kinds of writing that happens when I'm in it. Not that I'll be in it, for all time for sure, but during development, it's really helpful how quick, how organic those rewrites come and how fluid and yeah, how fast the writing goes, which is very good to know that that is a possibility. So I'm sort of trying to build in at least one reading during every developmental reading where I do one. I don't really even care which role. Like, just give me one, doesn't matter. And it really does help. So that's been fun.
Well, I hope we get to catch one of those one of these days.
Yeah.
Jason has another question for you.
Oh, yes, I had a question. I'm sure you heard the news recently where they found the writing that's possibly from
Yeah.
to Anne. Does that change any way you look at these characters?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, well, writing Muse of Fire, because Anne's not a very big part of Book of Will, but the idea that they respect her so much and do think of her when they think of him is important, and that it is with reverence that they go to her, not sort of like, ugh, this old lady. Like, no, she's a big part, and she's a respectful woman, and they give her deference. I think is me sort of saying, let's assume that she was not an idiot and a mistake and someone that he didn't really care about and was running away from. Let's assume perhaps that she was maybe awesome, like maybe really lovely. And of course she can read. And so of course she saw some of the plays, and of course she liked what her husband did. And just because we don't have proof that they were together and loved each other doesn't mean that they didn't. So that's sort of what Muse of Fire is about, but it's in Book of Will as well. The idea that they would definitely have known her and met her before, and she's not this sort of shadowy figure. But yeah.
I gotta say that last scene in Book of Will with Anne and Susanna is just like such a it's so small, but it's so good because
Thank you.
It's not just what they say, it's what they're not saying, but you have somehow built that into the language in a way that I think it's just so clear. The opinions, the pain, but also the forgiveness, all or the lack thereof, and maybe in Susanna's case.
Yeah, Susanna's not so forgiving, but yes, Anne is like, all right. Yes.
Just
thank you.
That props on that scene.
Thanks. I always knew it was going to end with them taking it to Anne. I mean, well, that was one of the history moments of realizing Anne died before it was published widely, but not before the first version was out. So that there was like a possibility of overlap that she could have seen it. So I knew that was going to be where we ended. However we ended, we were going to end there.
Yeah, great. That's awesome. Okay, now I'm going to have a question from a couple questions from one of our cast members. I want to preface one of it. I want to preface this by there was a man that was very dear to this theater company. He was a professor and just all over proselytizer of Shakespeare and literature and theater in general. And he recently passed away. And with that, we have a small request. No pressure, putting you on the spot. I recognize that, but you wouldn't have asked this question live if you didn't seem so cool. So no pressure either way. But I'm gonna turn over the mic to.
Sure.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, I'm Sarah. I play publisher extraordinaire and father of the year, William Jaggard. Jaggard makes a whole speech where he says that, dear old Smethick owns that and Romeo and Juliet. And I was wondering if you would mind if I changed. the name to my cough.
Yeah, sure. Whatever you want.
Thank you.
That sounds
Thank
great.
you so much. And my other question, much less teary, why is Jaggard the only person that really curses in this show? Because Jaggard curses a lot.
He does. He does.
Yes.
Yes.
I mean, it's some of my most favorite lines I've ever spoken on stage.
Horsey fucker is the best one, I think. I don't even know what that was. I totally just invented that in the moment. It was like, what is this? I don't know. It's funny.
We love it a lot. I'm loud and it echoes across the hills. So
I love it. Perfect.
Yeah. Shut up, Isaac.
Yes, he feels
Yeah,
just
so-
like the person who would. I don't know. As he's not an actor, he's like the guy. I mean, he's the. What I love about it is he's like an antagonist that's not actually an antagonist, right? He does help. He makes the whole thing actually happen, and he gives it to his son in the end. And so he's a dick, but with the heart of gold, you know.
I love the description of the character in the book. Actually, there's like this 4 lines. It's the longest one of anybody else, and at the end it says "an ass."
Yes.
You known that I am an ass. So I
Indeed,
think
very
it's
dog
fantastic. Thank you so much for such a fun guy.
Oh, good. Enjoy,
Yes,
enjoy,
thank you.
enjoy.
Hey, Tiffany, do we have any online questions on the YouTube?
We do not right now.
Okay.
But people say they're enjoying it.
Sweet.
Yeah, come on in.
Next up, we have Mandy Bean.
Hi. Where am I? Oh, I guess I can't. Oh, there I am. Okay, great. Sorry.
Look
You're
at
at the theater, Mandy. Hi, I'm playing Amelia. What?
We're missing her.
What? Did we lose her?
We lost her on our side.
Oh no.
Uh,
She's got. I'll
Are you?
tell
I'm here.
Joe.
okay, yeah, there we go. Okay.
You and your cat. Okay. Big fan. I've done three of your shows, I guess.
Cool.
I've done it 4 times as 2 different characters. And then 2 of us here, two more of us have done Silent Sky.
Yeah.
Goober, who's playing, who are you? Isaac Crane.
Isaac.
Played
It's me, boy.
Jeannie, and then Dana, our stage manager, played Wilhelmina. I played
awesome.
Margaret. So my question is, what other you tend to delve into a lot of plays about women from classic literature and also historical figures, like in Silent Sky. What is kind of either in the pipeline, or what is someone's story that you haven't explored yet that you'd be interested in doing?
Oh, man. That is always on my mind. You know, one that came up the other day was I only hesitated because there's been a couple of fictionalizations of her, but I really love the relationship of Jane Austen and her sister Cassandra Austen, and I feel like there's something there that I've been wanting to write for a while. I just did an adaptation of Little Women that is about includes, you know, the story of Louisa May Alcott and her sisters, and so that sort of got me back to the Jane Austen idea. I've obviously loved Jane Austen.
Right.
Yeah, there's 1,000 scientists and politicians and activists and writers that one could go into. But yeah, I'm always ready for give me a cool lady from history, and
Yes, we want more plays of cool ladies.
always. That's a great question. Thank you. I'm so excited that y'all are in other plays of mine too. That's really great.
Yes, actually, and so I noticed popping up in the chat. The guy what was his name? Who did Josh play in Silent Sky? The man in Silent Sky.
Henry. Let me not
Thank
Peter.
you. The one man.
The one guy.
Peter Shaw.
Peter Shaw.
Mr. Shaw.
Fantastic. This is so much fun. Thank you.
This is so great.
Okay. Great. So one thing that I'm kind of tying my own question in with Alan's that I'm about to read. So my thought that I wanted to ask was in the beginning of the play you mentioned that, you know, it's the ink and the paper that interests this play. We don't need to see the presses. and then you plop two Gutenberg presses and Jaggered print shop. And is your intention with that just to be like, do what you want? Or is it like, don't actually build one, do something abstract? Or like, I'm just curious.
I just wanted to make it so that we can lead with abstractions. So somebody who's in a 50-seat theater can do the show in whatever way they want and doesn't need to feel like, oh God, I need Lincoln Center budget to do this. But it's really cool. I've seen full working presses that people have made. I have seen, gestures in both in Denver Center and at OSF. It was much more choreographic and symbolic of kind of ripping pages off of things and stacking them. And then there was a little sort of magic show that turned this stack of pages into a covered binded book. So but it was much more, again, about the people and the enthusiasm and the kind of sense of urgency and work, as opposed to like, this is where the ink goes and this is the thing and this is that. And it's fascinating, but it does like take a while, and it sort of becomes a show, like the prop show, as opposed to the people show. So,
right.
But I did go at the Folger. They have a wonderful new exhibit where has an interactive press, which is as Shakespeare made it. And with my show that was just there, I got my kids got to go. They made them so the kids could like do the work my kids loved it. They were like, oh my God, I'm actually doing it. It takes a while, like you gotta, so that was really cool.
I have to remember that next time I'm in DC.
Oh yeah, you gotta go. It's so great.
So yeah, Alan's question was, what is the most interesting way you've seen or heard of the presses being represented? And I think you answered that fabulously.
Yeah, so it's mostly again about sort of when they're naming the plays and kind of putting them all together. Yes, the feeling of fun and yes, busyness, however it is accomplished, is more important than like we are sewing the binding of the thing and the.
Yeah, that's we were actually working on a bit of that last night in rehearsal, and me and one of the actors were like going back and forth, like, well, I think it's this, or I think it's that. And it's like, let's just see what happens. Let's put in as much detail as we want to in this moment, and if it's too much, we'll pull back. And ultimately, what we decided was like less is more when you are using people to be more representative. And
it's a very interesting way to put it, Adam. Do tell her how we.
I'm sure there'll be video evidence out there in the world. If Lauren's interested in finding it, she can look that up. So speaking of physicality and people on stage, this is from our movement director, Ayla. Your plays seem to invite a physical breath of life into the text. When you're writing, do you imagine the movement and spatial relationships between characters and place, or is that just something you prefer to leave to the production process?
I mean, I don't. I feel like that's where a steady-handed visionary director can really sort of make their mark on the play. I feel like transitions are the obvious space, like how we get into an act, a scene, how do we get out? I am always very interested in swiftness, unless there are spots to kind of to take the time that things need to take to switch into a scene. But everything needs a point of view and everything needs a bit of artistry. So I find transitional spaces are great moments for movement and to continue the storytelling, to kind of have an extra glance between Alice and Isaac and have a little, squeeze on the shoulder between John and Becky. There's no reason why that can't sort of happen in interior spaces. And that's not something I necessarily need to write. But I always appreciate directors and choreographers and movement folks, intimacy folks who can kind of really name those spaces for what they are. Like if you're gonna gotta move a table anyway, like make a little story out of it. If you're gonna do it, like make it quick, but like make it cool. So, and sometimes it's like you could just, sound obviously helps and lighting, of course, but yeah, I think those spaces can be really great. But that's part of why I wanted to like not totally specify how the book is made and kind of how do we get to Stratford? What changes, if anything? How do these things happen? And most important is to kind of keep the engine of the show going and don't let a transition drain the energy, which they often do. And so there's a ton of ways to work against that and really sort of speed us through to the next scene and drop us in a place of energy, as opposed to being like, and lights up slowly, and here we are, and we're asleep.
Crash into those pauses and
Yeah.
embrace the wise woman once said. Another thing I want to speak to is the musicality and the rhythm that is so inherent in your text. It is like, in a sense, does remind me of Shakespeare, because it does kind of breathe out of the page. Is that something you think? Is that something that you developed over your time writing? Oh my gosh, let me rephrase this. Is that something you discovered over the course of your time playwriting, or is that something you kind of came into with the craft, having an actor background?
I mean, I think it's something that I realized the plays that I loved had that. The plays that I wanted to see again and again, or read it again and again, and the playwrights that I really admired have that ability, and in different ways. I mean, Paula Vogel, Sarah Rule, and Nottage, those writers have such skill, but such very different kinds of imagination and prowess in their writing and in their voices. But there's a treasure of language and a specificity and a sort of certainly with like Rule and Vogel, there's a brazenness to the imagination that meets a sensitivity with language. And with Nottage, there's so much, it's so strong and so just epic in its emotion. So the kind of combination of that, and then like Tennessee Williams, I'm from the South, and so Tennessee Williams, the lyricism of those language of his lines and the language and the description of the spaces and the inherent magic that he puts into almost all those plays really sort of moved me. So the combination of that sort of melded alchemically together to me. And each play is a bit different. Like some have a more grounded sort of very lived in feel, and some have more of that lyrical magic to them. And I sort of decide per play where we're going. Maybe I don't really decide. I just sort of discover it when I'm in it. Like, oh, this play is a little fancy. Oh, this one's sort of like, this one's gritty. And they kind of go in between. But I do love how the perfect word in the perfect place can just do more than a whole ensemble number or a whole play, can be just about one word said in the right place. And so, yes, I'm very careful with the language and careful with it's not just the intention or the information of the word, it's the sound, it's the click, it's the syllable number. I often have plays that go to high schools or, are used in competitions and things, and they need to replace words for, cursing reasons, sure. But the main thing is, unless I've started to put in a list of replacements that I approve ahead of time, because it's not enough just to say it's got to be the right syllable length. Like you can't take horsey fucker and replace it with shit. Like, no, sorry, we're gonna need something. So that one's hard to replace, honestly.
Why would you?
My best work.
Would you consider yourself to be the someone who writes by ear in that sense then?
Yeah. I mean, I think that goes back to me starting as an actor and the rhythm, the feel of the language, is it a consonant or does the vowel, what kind of vowel is it that can make just the difference between something that feels like love or feels like hate or feels like betrayal or feels like joy. And it can be a letter in that word that makes the difference. So trying to be very careful on that level too, the kind of granular microscopic level as well
a phonetic nerd, I love it. So thank you for writing from that place. Oh yes, Darren. Okay, please come in.
I didn't know if the timing was good.
Timing. We are gonna wrap up, I think, fairly soon.
Okay,
but
good.
Please,
well, I'm glad I jumped in.
Then.
Lauren, beautiful play. Thank you. Darren Marshall playing Richard Burbage. And I have a question. Well, I have a small story.
Wait, also, is there a story about playing Antony?
No.
Okay, I just want to say I love the line about his Antony. I still remember because Darren played Antony. So it's a cool Easter egg for like our crowds.
Nice.
Oh,
nice.
perfect.
So there is a line of Burbage's, pillagers of wit, charlatans of heart. referencing the other troupe that has badly stolen Hamlet. And I kept trying to figure out which play that quote is from, and I couldn't figure it out. And I couldn't. And then finally, I Googled it, just typed that whole line into Google, and came up with, okay, that is a line from the play Book of Will. I thought for sure that was a Shakespearean quote from some other play that I could not identify. So, first of all, well done.
That's awesome. That's the
Well
best
done.
compliment ever.
Was that on purpose? Were you trying to fool? And if you were, how many more are in this play?
Ooh. I mean, we'll have to play the game of how many you think. You know, I tried not to quote Shakespeare too much because it would become a little like wink wink the whole time.
Yeah.
I mean, they're there, obviously. But yes, I did want to sort of imitate the grandiosity of language, certainly for Burbage. Like he of all people would get the chewiest, most indulgent language.
The montage alone.
The montage alone. Oh my God. I remember working on that. That was a group effort for sure, because I had my draft and then some, obviously working with the actor who played Burbage, and all the other actors in the show were from various Shakespeare companies. And so they were like, oh no, that's this line. Oh, we should wait. This line goes with that line. So
Awesome.
it was really fun to be like, oh, great. That's a perfect. Yeah. Well, you know, there were some that were obvious. And I was like, oh, duh. Why didn't I think of that one? So yes.
Heck yeah.
That's so nice. Thank you for the compliment.
Yeah,
That means
thank
a lot.
you. Yeah.
Well, it was so
Charlotte took the part. I was
that
like, that is a
montage
good line.
log, as people calling it, is it's that if you just treat it like it's not a composite, it still reads like a really fantastic monologue.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
so our challenge has been finding how can you nod both but without losing its wholeness as its own piece.
Exactly.
And,
Yes.
and ultimately, I just want him to deliver like a rap diss to Boy Hamlet.
Yes. That's great. Oh yeah, no, it's a total diss and a show off. It's like, sit down.
Sit down.
All right, I want to ask one more question. I think this is a good one for us to end on. And if you have any questions for us, feel free to ask. Otherwise, thank you so much for your time, for giving us an hour of your time so far. But Ayla, our movement director, who I spoke for earlier, is actually in the room. So I'd like the woman to speak for herself.
It's like, no, I don't want
Or you, and that she doesn't want to. This one, the one you sent me questions, and I want you.
They did. I sent them so I wouldn't have to talk.
Oh, you know. All right. Well, I tried. I still want to end on this question. What is the responsibility of theater makers, in your opinion, working with classical or historical material in a world moving so quickly towards the ephemeral?
Ooh, what a beautiful question. I think it is one of those lodestars that we can, like a point of gravity that we can touch from so long ago. But it is only in the context of now and who we are now and the struggles of now that we can do a couple of things. One, see that we're not alone, see that people have been through these things before, whether it is plagues or, corrupt governments or natural disasters, or personal losses and personal loves and triumphs and joys, that we see how cyclical the world actually is. And I think that should be good news. Because it doesn't stay where it is, and we get through things and they happen again, but we'll get through them too again. So I think that's part of what the classics do, is remind us like this made sense and mattered to people hundreds of years ago, and it still makes sense and matters now. And it may matter differently, but that's good too. That's great. We still go back to these sources to continue to interrogate those things and to bring what they knew back then, but also add what we know now. Which is why I think it's also a point important to kind of oddly not let the plays lead in terms of the moral. So I'm a fan of like, yeah, let's change the ending of Taming of the Shrew. Why not? You don't want it to end that way. You don't have to. You realize you don't actually have to. And so pushing against it or putting something in context or saying, certainly we're quite used to diverse casting or gender swapping, gender exploration in roles. That's freaking great. Why not? Of course do that. So there's things when you're dealing with Shakespeare where we can kind of you know, stop the play if we need to talk about what's going on in Othello, or change a way something is done, or you know. So I think they're there as works of fiction to continue to be works of fiction and not fact. So we don't need to stop and say this is the end of that thing. It is a continuation of that thing. And I think Shakespeare would prefer us to keep going and to make something ever more relevant, as opposed to watch the plays sort of be like, well, I can't really do that one anymore. Like that's death to Shakespeare. No, no, no. We're doing a favor to him to be like, you can if you like maybe experiment with this or add this or futz with this or cut Dogberry. I don't know. There's it should be a living thing. We know how live theater is, and we know the resurrection that every play is. From we could do 1,000-year-old plays, and that's freaking cool. And because we just decided to do them, so we can continue to decide to do whatever we want to continue to make it emotional and human and relevant now. So that's the way I think about Will and other classics. And also, you know, there's a responsibility to know them because of how they have affected and defined certain parts of culture, but the responsibility is not to agree with them all the time. We continue to push and pull, and as anything that reminds us of that empathetic humanity and kind of the source of plays are there to remind us how to be good to each other and how to be together, and function together, whether that is by the model you want or the model you don't. But we keep telling them to remind ourselves that we're there and that how to be good and how to continue to go on. So anything that does that is, I think, the right thing.
So a theater maker's folio should be empathy, I think, at the end of the day.
Indeed. Absolutely.
All right. Well, that's
what a pleasure to talk with y'all. Y'all are fantastic. This is amazing.
So great.
And can you remind me when the show is? I have lots of family in North Carolina that I will funnel your way if they can.
Oh my goodness. We open May 9th.
Great.
And we perform Friday, Saturday, and Sunday at 7:30, weather permitting, until the 31st. So
awesome. Oh, fantastic. That's so great. Well, thank you for telling the story with me, and thank you for being brave and emotionally courageous to do this work and make people laugh, then make them cry, then make them laugh again.
With your help, how can we do anything else? Thank you so much.
Love it.
And